Dr. Robin Kimmerer is a respected botanist, author, and professor of botany at the State University of New York. And each year she gets new students that are really eager to come and study with her and learn how to save the planet. So each year she takes her new students and asks them two questions. First of all, how many of you love nature? And everybody's hand goes, wee. How many of you believe that nature loves you? All the hands go down. And she says, we've got a problem. As environmentalists, it's important for you to know that you have a relationship with the earth. It's important to know that it's not an inert something for you to fix and change, but something which calls you into itself and calls you into a place of evolving together. Dr. Kimmerer is a Native American born and raised in the reservation close to where she teaches, and that's how she was raised. And she believes profoundly that thinking that we can fix or change the world out there without being willing to fix and change ourselves and change our relationship to the world precludes anything real and significant happening. I mentioned that by way of introduction to the idea of conscious evolution, which is at once an ancient and very modern understanding of who we are and how we are in the world. Because it's as ancient as the Native American wisdom, the Aboriginal wisdom of how to be on the planet and how to be in relationship with each other, but it's as new as including the cutting edge technology in science and astronomy and psychology, and understanding that who we are and how we are is evolving consciously, and that we have a power to guide our lives and that process of evolution. As we tune into ourselves, as we tune into others, as we tune into spirit and tune into our relationship with the whole and stop seeing ourselves as separate from, victims of the world, and see ourselves as being integral to and co-creators of the world. Conscious evolution is central to what we do here in Celebration Circle when we speak of our oneness, as we examine what's new in science and psychology and as what's old in religion and spirituality, and find that place within ourselves and in our community where we can affect change deeply, one breath, one hug, one phone call, one conscious thought at a time. I believe that it's not just a world view, a way of seeing the world, but a vision of the world, a vision of what's possible. I believe conscious evolution is a process, one that calls us into new ways of being. And it's a way of being in relationship with the earth, with ourselves, with each other, and with the future. Seeing that the future is not something out there that's going to happen to us and to our kids, but something that we are creating every moment, every day, with every thought, with every action, with every purchase, with everything we don't purchase, is part of the change that is evolving and emerging through us. Because we are not just victims of our circumstances, because we are co-creators of what is happening to us, we are called upon to act rather than just react. Breathe into that for just a moment with me. That you and I are called upon to act, not just react. And of course, reaction is the primary mode of being in a material consumer world where we're asked to buy this, do that, so we can be stronger, faster, more handsome, more popular, more famous, more rich, more ma. If only we react in a certain way with our wallet, with our iPhone, with our TV eyeballs. But this way of being, of conscious evolution, asks me, asks you, can you stand where you stand and take a powerful stance as a conscious co-creator of reality? When I speak of conscious evolution, first it's important to understand that evolution itself is a very new concept for human beings. Darwin's famous groundbreaking book, The Origin of Species, was published in 1859, and it took another 25, 30 years for it to start to be understood by the wider population. Not coincidentally, the time when this theory of evolution and this understanding of evolution was a time of great change. It's important to know because before Darwin put forth this evolution, before this bubbled up into collective consciousness as humans, every people, whether they were Christian, Judeo-Christian, Muslim, or Aboriginal in Australia, or native to South Africa, or at the North Pole, every people had a creation story. Every people have a creation story. Let me put that in present tense. Every people, by definition, has a story which say how they came to be living in that valley, at that shore, and on that mountaintop. Once there was nothing, and then a turtle came down from the heavens, or a bird came down from the heavens, or God spoke into the heavens, or the word emerged from the living waters. Everybody has a story of how they came to be, but in that story for thousands of years, whether that story was told in Australia or South Africa or at the North Pole, that story was about a creation that was made and fixed. This is the way things are. It was told to me by my grandfather and by their great-grandfather, and so that's how it is. It was only with Darwin's new understanding of evolution that we started to get a glimpse of the fact that nothing is, but everything is becoming. At all times, the alligators and the fish and the butterflies and humans are constantly evolving in response to their environment, okay? 1859 starts bubbling into the public consciousness, and 25, 30 years later, about the same time that Einstein was coming up with his great idea, about the same time that the Industrial Revolution had shrunk distance, had made communication and travel much more rapid, made the world shrink in understanding, and suddenly for the first time there was an inkling at the turn of the 20th century, an inkling that things weren't just the way you saw them. It's not a matter of seeing, believing, but that a notion that what you see is only a part of what there is in the world. It's a brand new concept to human consciousness. It's so new that there are still people fighting it today, saying, back with that. Nothing's evolving. We are the way God made us, and we'll always be that way, and we must hold the line right here. Be that as it may, life evolves. But now, for the very first time in the space of the last 10 or 20 years at the most, it started percolating into the brains of people who were studying at the edge of psychology and astronomy and physics and mathematics, that life was way more complicated than we understood, that nothing is solid. There is no thing called a chair. There's only a bunch of atoms having a relationship in a form called chair. But most of what we see as chair is actually not plastic and metal. Most of it is the space between the atoms. It's a field of consciousness. It's an energy state that we call chair. When I look at Jane, I think I know Jane the yoga teacher, Jane with the big smile, but I don't know anything about Jane, really, because she is constant mystery evolving into the person she is becoming. We're just now as a culture starting to understand these concepts. I'm talking in circles, but that's because it's a very important concept to understand that conscious evolution takes the next step, which says, not only is everything not a thing, but just a relationship, I am not a thing, but I am constantly in relationship to everything, which is also relationship. And I have the power to consciously guide and form that relationship and how I am in the world and how the world is to me. Whoa. Heavy. Change the channel on that, man. That's too much. Let's find something lighter. But there is nothing lighter. This is the reality of who we are. Those of us who are on the spiritual path are called to stand firm in the awareness that we not only have the possibility, but the responsibility to be conscious co-creators in a process of conscious evolution, to call forth that which we wish to see in the planet. As peace, as justice, as environmental sustainability rather than environmental degradation, as a global community of consciousness rather than nation states fighting each other with ever bigger and more potent weapons. For a long time, we've had a somewhat stable detente between the nations who have had nuclear weapons, but now there are new actors who can acquire them and fire them in North Korea, in the Mideast, Eastern Europe. There's a whole bunch of nuclear material out there floating around, up for grabs. We can no longer afford to defend our boundaries. We must consciously, as a people, move into a consciousness beyond boundaries and into our mutual sustainability, mutual justice. Not because it's a good idea, not just because Jesus said so, but because it's implicit to our survival as a species, to figure out a way to turn down the thermostat, to figure out a way to disarm ourselves, to figure out a way to move, how to move beyond tribal consciousness. And that's what conscious evolution calls us to, I believe. I get excited when I talk about this stuff, because there is a rising tide of feeling all around us, a reactionary force that's pushing back and saying, no, we want to keep things the way they are, and if all possible, we want to go back to the 1950s, and to when things were safe and definitions were more stable and lines were more clear. But the truth is, there is no way to go back. The definitions are gone. It's not only time to think outside of the box, it's time to recognize there are no boxes except the ones that we create and imprison ourselves in. It's time to think not just outside the box, but into a field of becoming in which boxes have no place. And only roundness and sustainable relationships are called for. And that's an age-old knowing. It's what the sages of the Far East have been telling us since time out of mind. There's only one consciousness. There's only one Godhead unfolding at all times. We are connected. We are one. But if you take that age-old awareness and add it with the new awareness of possibilities in technology and science and astronomy and cosmology, add it with the amazing, unlimited potential of the internet, which is just a baby step in cyberspace. Who knows what's coming beyond the internet, but something is. There will be a time when screens will seem as old fascists as riding around on horses. And everything will just be holograms and consciousness and communicated instantaneously. When's that coming? I don't know. How's that coming? I don't know. But I do know it's coming, and it's our role to help birth that from a place of peace and possibility. Take a breath, Rudi, settle down. Because what hasn't changed in the midst of all that change is our emotional capacity to respond. We're still stuck with the same basic fears: mad, sad, glad, scared. And we're basically still stuck with our lizard brain, which tends to act from mad and sad and scared. A lizard brain which is thousands of years outdated, but hasn't changed any more than our biological, anatomical capacity to respond to all this new input coming. So, those of us who are looking for a place of hope in the middle of all this darkness and despair and environmental degradation and political separation, those of us who want to see the light are asked to turn, I believe, and face the possibility of conscious evolution as a process which enables us to use our creative power to guide our lives and the evolution of the systems and communities in which we live and work. Conscious evolution is a spiritually motivated endeavor affirming that humans have the potential of being co-creators with spirit, with the deeper patterns of nature and universal design. The promise of conscious evolution is nothing less than the emergence of a new human species, a universal human capable of guiding its own evolution into a future of unimaginable creativity. Those are the poetic and powerful words of Barbara Marx Hubbard, one of the leading thinkers in this field. But more important are the words written in your heart and in your soul. The feelings inside yourself that there's something more. There's got to be something more than what's on the front page of the newspaper. That's what on my Facebook page. There's got to be something more than the bad news. And yes, there is. The good news is it's you. The other news is, it's you. And me. And us. Who are being asked to step up and step forth in this way. So, this is Inauguration Week. For better or for worse, we're going to have a new president. And there's going to be a big ceremony on Friday, and a whole bunch of people are holding their breath, wondering what will happen on Saturday and the next Monday and Tuesday. And I don't know about any of that. I don't know anything about any of that. But I do know that you and I are being invited today to attend a very important inauguration, and that's your own inauguration. A willingness to step into your role as a world leader and not wait for Trump and Putin or Obama and Biden or Clinton or Joe Blow. Stop waiting for them to fix it, but to step into our capacity to be global thought leaders. So I think we need some appropriate music for our inauguration. You know the melody. Dun, da, da, dun, 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 da, da, dun, dun. Da 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 da. I know. Some of you are saying, but Rudi, that's graduation music. That's not inauguration music. Well, actually, it's coronation music. Sir Elgar wrote this for the coronation of King Edward VII back in 1901. It was coronation music, and it was such a big hit that the people at Yale University asked them to come play it for their graduation. And there it was such a big hit that suddenly it became the graduation song. Graduation, coronation, inauguration, those are but terms. You and I are being asked to graduate from our smaller selves into the bigger selves. Being asked to be coronated as kings and queens, as sovereigns of our domain. Asked to be inaugurated into our office as world leaders. Inauguration, the word comes from the Latin inaugur, augur being what the sages would do to find out if a time was auspicious for the new king, the new emperor, the new queen to take office. They would augur then by, cutting open a snake and examining its entrails or reading tea leaves or finding some other omen from the gods, augured a good new beginning. So inauguration was the time when the sages said, okay, this is a good time. This is a good time. All the omens say this is the time for you to be the leader. This is a great time for you to step up and be the leader of world consciousness. Now more than ever, this week, You are called to be inaugurated into your role, to accept the mantle of leadership, and not worry about success or failure, remembering the words of Sir Winston Churchill. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. But the willingness to continue is vital. Success is not final. Failure is not failure. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And I would say it's the courage to continue evolving in consciousness that counts. Who if not you? And when if not now? That's my question, and I'm sticking to it.